And welcome back. Welcome back to Open Your Eyes. And we're now moving into our first segment. Like we mentioned, it is a Friday, so we're about to have some fun. And today is actually International Day of Broadcasting.
Children's Day of Broadcasting. Close. But yeah, so, you know, we should have brought school uniforms. Man.
I know.
Would that make us fit in a bit more?
Man, I'd rock my St. Peter Cleaver. No problem.
All right. So, as we said, today we're commemorating this day in collaboration with the National Committee for Families and Children. And what they have done is that they worked on being able to get some interviews along with some well-known faces in Belize and very inspiring persons. And it's children who, from the Kidorama program at NCFC, who are the ones doing the interview. So our first interview for this morning is going to be with the Acting Chief Justice, Michelle Arana. And conducting this interview is Xander Elrington. So let's take a look at that.
International Children's Day of Broadcasting.
Justice Michelle Arana was appointed the first female justice of the Supreme Court in Belize, January 2006. In April 2020, Justice Arana was officially sworn in as Belize's first female acting Chief Justice. She spoke with Kidorama's Xander Elrington to share her journey.
Thank you, Madam Chief Justice, for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. Madam Chief Justice, can you share a little bit about your background?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Elrington. First of all, let me start by saying it's a pleasure for me to be here. I want to thank the National Committee for Families and Children for inviting me to participate in this very important event for the International Day of Broadcasting for Children. I'm delighted to be here and I look forward to this interview. I would start by saying that I was born right here in Belize City at North Street in Kings Park area. I was born to Mrs. Agnes Arana and Mr. Gregorio Arana. They were originally from Punta Gorda in the Toledo district. I lived at Racecourse Street as a child, and from there we moved to Niels Pen Road, where I spent most of my childhood. I used to go to St. Ignatius Primary School, and I used to walk from Pen Road to St. Ignatius every day, right, in the hot sun. But it was fun for us, you know. I used to then attend St. Catherine's Academy, after which I went to St. John's College Sixth Form. Okay, I grew up in a loving family. I have 3 brothers. I'm the eldest. We grew up in a very close-knit, supportive family. So that's a little bit of my background. Okay?
Who or what inspired you to go into law?
Well, to be quite honest, it started for me when I used to watch these television programs way back in the, I think, 1980s. LA Law and Night Court. But this Night Court was a very funny judge, and I found his role entertaining. It became serious for me in 1983 when my father passed away. I was in second form at SCA, and I witnessed the many problems and struggles that my mother had to deal with and settle certain matters after he had died. And that is when it occurred to me that this is a career that I should really look into for myself. And those are some of the life-changing events that helped molded my passion to become a lawyer.
What type of schooling or training did you have to receive?
I studied for 5 years to become a trained attorney at law. I studied at the University of the West Indies in Jamaica to get my Bachelor's of Laws degree. And then I went on to pursue the practical side to get my certificate of legal education from the Norman Manley Law School in Jamaica. Okay? Many years later, I went on to England to get my Master's of Law degree from the University of Birmingham.
What is your favorite memory of law school?
I have many, many memories, and it's difficult for me to pick a favorite. From the academic side, I remember particularly one Professor Ralph Carnegie. He taught us the law of contract. And he stuck out in my mind because I remember the first day he came into class and started teaching us from the middle of the course. Okay? What is the frustration of a contract? And we don't even know what a contract is. But that was just his own way of teaching. And eventually we caught on that this is his way. But he was an excellent professor. Brilliant man. Then we had Professor McIntosh. He taught us law in society. Now, the difficulty with that was he failed everybody, basically. I don't know if it was a technique or what, and many of us were panicking because we said, how will we pass this man's course? You know, because we were top students from the Caribbean and we were not used to this kind of low grade that he was giving us. So we were fretting and panicking, and then eventually, around the middle of the term, he started passing us. You know, I guess he figured by that time we must have learned something by then. I don't know. But that was interesting. And then at law school we had the late Justice of Appeal, Boyd Carey. He taught us family law. And his technique was he used to use funny names for some of the legal scenarios that he would ask us to consider. For example, the names of some of the people involved would be Mr. and Mrs. Potush, or some ridiculous name like that. So that was one of his techniques of making something that could probably be a little bit boring, entertaining for his students, while teaching us sound principles of family law. But for me, my favorite professor was retired Justice, President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Dennis Morrison. He had this way of making each and every student in his classroom feel appreciated, heard, respected. Very brilliant man, you know, and he's an icon in law in the Caribbean. Okay, he's very humble, brilliant, and very, very dedicated to law. Okay, so those are some of my fun memories. On the fun side, because it wasn't just studying for me, I will be quite honest, I had a lot of fun. My father used to be a lecturer at the Teachers College, and when he would go to the Caribbean to correct CXCs, right? The exams that people used to take after high school. He would bring back Bob Marley records for me. And that is when I started to first develop a love for reggae music. So among my many memories of studying at law school in Jamaica in particular was attending concerts. Okay, either on campus, because the artists would wish to come and perform for us. They know most students don't have money, so they would come to the campus and perform for us. Fantastic concerts. I got to see artists like the late Gregory Isaacs. I saw Barry Hammond probably 2 or 3 times because I love him. I saw Yellow Man. I saw Rita Marley. You know, many of the Third World, one of my favorite groups. You're probably too young to know about Third World, but that's one of my favorite groups. You know, so these were some of the artists that I used to enjoy, you know, on my downtime as a student. And then I had this good friend. She lives in Washington, D.C. now. She's a Trinidadian. We would go to each and every concert. We didn't miss any. And we would be right up in front underneath the speakers so that we could hear every word that the artist was singing. And we'd probably leave from there half deaf, but having enjoyed the concert to the max. Okay, so those are some of my favorite memories of being a student at law school.
In law school, did you ever think you will someday become the Chief Justice?
Not at law school. I was always focused on eventually becoming a judge. And I dedicated most of my career towards this goal, right? I think it suits my personality. I'm by nature a very quiet person unless I'm upset, but generally I'm very quiet. And I like delving into problems and looking for solutions, after listening to everybody, applying the law and coming up with a solution. It might not please everybody. Most times it won't please everybody, but it's the solution that the law requires you to make in the situation. So I didn't think I'd ever become Chief Justice initially. But as time progressed and I became more experienced as a judge, I said to myself, well, probably eventually this might be something that I could do, but it's not something, to be honest, that I went out to seek or I craved. I do consider being the first female Chief Justice of Belize a distinct honor, and I'm very, very pleased to serve in this position, and I will do so for as long as I am called upon to perform these duties.
What are some of the challenges that you had to face being a woman?
For me, the biggest challenge was and is balancing time between family and career. Especially when my children were very young, as babies and toddlers. It was difficult for me, for example, as a prosecutor at the DPP's office back in the 1990s, to leave my young child behind when I had to go to district to prosecute criminal cases for the government. Then later on, as a judge of the Supreme Court, again going out to the different districts to work and leave my young baby behind to sit on cases in the criminal division, and also having to leave them behind at any time to travel abroad to attend conferences and training workshops. All these are parts of the same discipline that we have to have continuing education, so we stay on top of our profession. So the challenge for me has always been balancing work and family, because they're both important. But thankfully, I have a supportive family. My children do understand, and I do give them the best of myself when I am around.
Since you started your career, has there been any challenges in the way with your law practices?
Any challenges? There have been a number of challenges. Initially, when I started practicing law, as I told you earlier, I come from a background of Garifuna teachers. I'm not a family of lawyers, so I am, for all intents and purposes, an outsider in this profession. But I have used that to my advantage in the sense that I don't look to anybody else for any support. If you want to give me support in a certain position, then I welcome it, but I do not feel obligated to really pander to anybody, because I got here on my own merit. That is how I look at it, you see. So the challenge is that it was very difficult at first, because I don't belong to any particular group that would help to forward my interests, as it were. I had to prove myself every step of the way, So it is a challenge, but it is one that is also very empowering, because you know that you sacrificed and you did everything that you could within your power to get to where you are. Okay, so that is my hope.
What are some of the qualities that a good judge should have?
There are quite a few. One of the most important is, I think, abundance of patience, because people will try your patience, Attorneys, clients in the court, people will try it, but you as the judge, you're supposed to exercise control of the proceedings. Have to have patience with yourself, because you yourself might feel aggravated at certain things, but you can't go off, as it were, as if you're in your house or something. You are serving the public, and you have to be aware of that at all times. So patience is number one on my list. You have to, of course, have a good grasp of legal concepts, stay abreast of legal developments, so that when things come before you, you are able to handle those things. They don't teach you everything in law school. They teach you a technique of handling problems, and afterwards is when you get your experience to add meat to the bones of what they have given you. Okay? So you have to keep developing your mind. You have to have a passion for reading and writing. If you don't like to read and write, you have to develop it. Okay? You have to have a good work ethic. You'll be working late into the night, on weekends, on so-called vacation. You might be out of court. That doesn't mean you're on vacation. You are still working on your cases, okay? Because there are hundreds of cases. You have to have, I would think, a good sense of humor. To me, that is important, because if you take everything seriously, the pressure will break you. So I think a good sense of humor will take you a long way in this profession. I believe also resilience, because things will happen that might knock you off your game for a few months, whether it's personal or in your career, but you have to be able to bounce back. And after, taking a little rest or whatever you need to do, but come back refreshed to tackle on the new challenges that await you. Those are some of the few qualities that I find very important in a judge.
How does your family feel about your career?
My family, thank God, is very supportive of me. My mom says she's very proud of my accomplishments. And I thank her for her guidance and support. My children understand that, at times mom has to lock herself in her office and just work, and you can't disturb me for this period of time. But they are very understanding and very supportive. And if they get annoyed, like my daughter, she will tell me, okay, enough of this, but I tell her, I have to do this now. Give me 2 hours. After that, I'll be able to do what I need to do with you. So my family is very loving and supportive.
Over the years, have there been cases that have affected you personally?
Well, I would prefer not to go too much into that because I'm still on the bench and I have to be careful what I say. What I can say generally is that cases which involve injury to children really upset and annoy me, but I won't go more than that.
What advice would you give to young Belizeans like me who wants to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I am very happy that you are interested in the law, and I would say to you to continue dedicating yourself to your academic studies, but at the same time, don't enclose yourself off from the world while doing so, because law is a very practical discipline. Okay, you have to know to read people and be able to understand how the world works and how the law works in regulating society. You should read as much as possible, write as much as possible. Look at how lawyers function even in politics. There's a dramatization of what happens in court, but look at it because it will give you some idea as to what is expected if you prefer to do courtroom work. Because it's not just courtroom work, but if you want to do that, look at what is portrayed in the movies. Okay, just to give you an idea, it's not the real thing because it's dramatized for to have the audience and interested in what is going on, but it gives you an idea of what takes place. Okay. Dedicate hours on hours of reading, because that is what I did. I like reading, I like writing, so it came naturally to me. But if it doesn't come naturally to you, you can still develop it. Okay, don't get discouraged if it's not something you don't really like. You can still develop it, because if that is the end goal, you will do what it takes to get there, right? Believe in yourself, listen to your parents, find people who have your best interests at heart and listen to them. Talk to people who have been there before you. You can learn from them. Okay, so those are some of the things I would say to you as a young Belizean.
Thank you for your time, Madam Chief Justice. That will be all for today.
You're quite welcome, Mr. Elrington. It was a pleasure.
As a part of the international...
There you go. That was great.
That was excellent. She had always been inspiring, Justice Michelle Arana. I've always looked at her as a leader as well. I've always admired the way she carried herself. But we're so thankful to have had Xander Elrington doing that interview. Oh, this is actually preparing to lead eventually. Yeah, we won't be here for too long,
Oh, of course not. I can guarantee you that much. But the issue, I think one, that she was open to do an interview with a teen reporter is just so great. And secondly, some great words of wisdom coming out there. And more importantly, when you get the stories of people who are on a journey that you only recognize where they are now,
because professionally,
it's so important that we can get that backstory so people can understand the work, the dedication, the rebound from obstacles or from challenges that you may have, and the persistence that it takes to get where you want to go. So I love when you can be able to get that story, especially from notable Belizeans in this country.
But of course, she summed up by saying, especially to the younger generation, sit and talk to people who you could learn from, especially when it comes to positive stuff. So that's a great sum up by the Acting Chief Justice, Madam Michelle Arana. We're so thankful to have had you with us this morning. Thank you so very much, and enjoy the weekend. But indeed, we will be having our young hosts coming up in just a few. So we've got this break coming up. When we come back, they will be flipping the script. What kind of script? You'll see when we come back. Stay with us.